previous video, we saw how to create data frames and series and what are they, and we discussed very thoroughly about data frames and series. And in this video, we'll continue our discussion with respect to pandas, and we'll see some more interesting topics like handling the missing values in your data set. In the real world, there are a lot of missing values in the data. You don't know what to do with them, whether to fill them with what value you can do, what value you can add to them, or whether you have to drop the rows or columns with those missing values. So we'll see in detail what we can do with those values. So for that purposes, I have also taken a random data.csv file here. I have created this file using ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT to create a random file for me with missing values so that I can handle them in this video and show you how to handle them and teach you how to handle them. And so let's begin actually. I have imported pandas as PD. PD is an alias. And then we'll do pd.read.csv and load data.csv in our data frame. Now we'll see what our data frame actually looks like. So we'll see the first five rows. I'll use df.head5 and we'll see the first five rows. So you can see that there are columns like date, category, value, product, sales, and region in the dataset. We'll also see the last five rows of the dataset. So let's use the tail function. I have discussed tail and head in the previous video. You can refer to that video if you're not able to understand head and tail. So you can see that there are some nan values here. So nan actually stands for not a number. This means that these are the missing values which we have to handle in the dataset. So let's also get through the statistical summary of this data and see the statistical summary using df.describe. This will give us the statistical summary. The count is 85 and the mean is 257 here, standard deviation, minimum 25 percentile, 50 percentile, 75 percentile, and maximum values we have here. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how to handle missing values. How to check missing values actually. We'll first see how to check them whether there are missing values or not, because right now the data set is quite small. It is just 100 rows, but in real life the data set can be very large, very huge. It can be 10,000 rows, 1 lakh rows. So we first need to check whether there are missing values or not. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the isNull function, which will give me the missing values in the data set. Since these are 100 rows, all the rows won't be displayed. The first five and the last five have been displayed and the rest are uh, not displayed here. But we can, yeah, we can see that wherever there is a false, there is actually a value there. There is no missing value there. And wherever there is a true, there are missing values there. So let's see it row wise and column wise. So how to see it row wise and column wise, whether we have missing values or not. So for that, I'm going to use dot any function after is null, and this will first give me the column wise missing values. So date has no missing values, category has no missing values, value has missing values, product has no missing values, sales has missing values, and region has no missing values. So let's also see the data types of what we are dealing with. What data types are we dealing with here? So date is a string, category is a string, value is float 64, product is string, sales is float 64, and region is string. Okay, so continuing with the missing values, now let's see whether we can see row wise if there are some missing values. Now this was with respect to columns. If we want to see row wise if there are missing values, we can use dot any and we can change the axis to 1. I've discussed what happens when you change the axis in the previous video, so you can go and refer to that video. So yeah, in the 95th row we have a missing value which shows us true. In the 97th row we have a missing value which shows us true here. So yeah, we have missing values in the 95th and the 97th row, but still we are not able to see the missing values in between the cells. You can just see first five and last five values. Okay, so let's see the sum of how many missing values we have actually. So what we are going to do is we're going to use is null, and we are going to use the dot sum function. So this will give us column wise how many missing values we have. So value has 15 missing values, and even sales has 15 missing values in it. So if you want the same thing as row wise, you can do the same thing. Dot is null, and you can use sum, and you can change the axis to 1. So you can see that the 95th row has one missing value and the 97th row has one missing value. Okay, so this will give you how many missing values are there in your data set. So this is quite useful. You can see that how many missing values are there in the data set. Okay. So now let's see how to fill these missing values. Filling the missing values. For that, we'll be using a function called fillna. So we'll use df.fillna, and for the time being, I'll fill it with 0. I'll fill all the missing values with 0. And what I'll do is that I'll create a copy of this data set, a copy of this data frame into another data frame df underscore filled. And why I'm creating a copy here is because I don't want my original data to change. If you want your original data to change, what you can do is you can just simply write df.fillna, and you can use the parameter in place, and you can say that it is equal to true. Once you say in place is equal to true, what it will do is that it will fill with 0 values in the original data set. So but I don't want my original data set to change, and I want that all the missing values should be replaced in another data frame. So I have used df underscore filled as a new data frame, and now let's see if the values have been filled or not. I'll just print df underscore filled. So yeah, you can see that in the 95th row there was a missing value which has been replaced with 0, and in the 97th row there was a missing value which has been replaced with 0. But in the real life, we don't actually replace the missing values with 0. Any numerical value we don't replace with 0, because that doesn't make any sense actually. What makes more sense and what is more practical is that you take the mean of the whole column and you replace with that value, because anyways you can just by thinking, by just your intuition, you can understand that yeah, the mean must be the better value to fit here, and it would give you a better value to estimate your data rather than using 0 as the value. So let's see how to fill missing values with mean. Filling with mean. So for that purposes, what I'll do is I'll create another column here, and I know that there are missing values in sales and value. So first I'll fill the missing values in sales, and for that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a column here that is sales underscore fill na. And uh, how I'm going to do is that I'm going to do say df of sales. I want to fill this particular column with the mean. So how do I calculate the mean? That is what I'm going to show you right now. So you can use df dot, so sorry, df of sales dot dot mean. And once you use the mean function, dot mean function, the fill na would fill with the mean of this column, and it will get replaced in not replaced, actually a new column will be created, sales fill na, and all the values will be from the mean of the sales value. So we'll run this command, and now let's see, look at our df. So yeah, we have another column sales underscore fill na, and you can see that there is a nan value in sales which has been replaced with 47.572568, and we didn't handle the nan value in the value, which I'll be showing you right now as well. So for practice only I'm showing you this, you get the concept that how to fill the missing values. So yeah, I'll use df I'll create another column of value fill na, and I'll say that I want value to be filled with the mean of value column. Now let's print our df again, and now we have value underscore fill na. So yeah, the nan value in the value has been replaced with 257.67, and sales fill na we just saw, and value fill na we are seeing now, that we can replace the missing values with this. If you don't want to create another column, you can just simply change the value here using df of value and the df of value here, and it will change in the same column and it won't create another column. But it is a good practice to create a new column so that we don't actually mess with our original data set. We know what our original data set actually wants to tell us. Okay, so this was all about filling the missing values. Now, what to do when you don't have to fill the missing values? You're just instructed to drop the rows or columns to that are empty, that don't have values, that have missing values. You just uh, don't want those rows or columns to be there in your data set. So what we do in such cases is we use another function called dropna. So we'll be using the function dropna to drop rows or columns with missing values. So it just deletes the rows and columns which have missing values. Again, we don't want our original data set to be harmed. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another df, that is df of dropped, and I'll say df dot drop na, and by default it will drop the rows which have the missing values. So in the 95th and 97th row we had missing values. So let's see what happens in df dot drop. So let's look at df dot dropped. Actually df underscore dropped, sorry. So you can see that the 95th and the 97th row have been deleted. But what if you want the column that has the missing values to actually vanish? Since I have created a new column here, sales fill NA and value fill NA, I don't want the value and sales column to be there anymore. I don't want the missing value columns to be there anymore. So what can I do in that case? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write df.drop, sorry, drop NA, and what I'm going to do is that I'll give axis is equal to 1. So you can see that value and sales have been dropped, and the columns we are left with is date, category, product, region, sales NA, and value fill NA. So let's look at our DF again, whether the change has happened in the DF or whether it was just temporary. So you can see that the change is temporary. So if you want the change to be permanent, you can again use the attribute, I'm saying, a parameter in place. So what we're going to do is we have to drop NA. We are going to change the axis. By default, the axis is 0. So don't mind my cat, please. By default, the axis is 0, and it is a good practice to write axis is equal to 0, even though default value it takes as 0. But it is a good practice. But here we are going to change the value to true, and what it will do is that it will drop the df values uh, with the columns which have missing values. So now our df does not have value and sales, it has sales underscore fill na and value underscore fill na, because we wrote in place is equal to true. So this is actually changing your original data set, but this is not a recommended practice. It is always a better practice to create uh, a copy of your data set, and rather than changing in your original making changes in your original data set, you actually make changes in the copy of your data set. So now let's say I want to delete something. Let's actually redefine our df, because I have to, I want the missing values to be there. So I'll just say data.csv. So now the df will again become with missing values. Yeah. Okay. So now what do we do when we want a particular column, when we want the rows of a particular column to be deleted? We don't want all the missing values to be deleted. We want the rows of a particular column. Like I want all the rows which have missing values in sales should be deleted. Not all the rows in the value, only the rows in the sales which have missing values to be deleted. What do we do in that case? So we use another thing called a subset, another parameter called a subset. So we'll go and write dropna, and I'll use a parameter subset, and I'll set the value to sales. I'll actually make a copy of this. I'll say df underscore copy only. Now let's see our df copy. So now in the sales, there was a missing value in the 95th row. So now you can see that the 95th row has been deleted. So this is how you actually use subset and delete the missing values for a particular column. If you don't want, like I didn't want that the value should be deleted, if even if there are missing values in the value column, but only the sales values should be deleted. So since I made a copy, our original DF has not been affected. Original DF will have these missing values. Yeah, there are missing values. Nan is still there. So this is how you handle missing values in pandas. You use fillna and dropna, and this was it by from my side. If you liked the video, please actually like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Share this video to your friends, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.